校卒業時般若波羅蜜多事証券法案回復同一切服薬者利子肉意空空意識色即税空空即税式重創病死薬部尿税者利子税証法総務省不服用不増減税国中分子無事創業式無限意味別式無式証拠密則無限界内し無
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Monastery, the open bar of the internet, the world's greatest shit show, and the place where we, the good brothers and sisters of this most holy of temples, seek enlightenment through the drunkest, craziest, and most batshit ways possible. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, I have a newcomer into the temple, kind of. Coming to us from Adventures Await Studios, currently developing the post-apocalyptic game Lead and Chrome, the one and only Benjamin Palmer. How you doing today, man? Yep, thanks for... And nope, nobody call him Arnold. We've heard that joke before. No, that's not what I was going for. Like an Arnold Palmer. Yeah. But I think a lot of people, I think if you bring that up to a lot of people, they're going to end up thinking of the drink that he was famous for. Hmm. Oh. It would certainly be a better option than what some people bring as drinks for tables. But it's tradition around here to open with the humble beginnings. So walk me through your first introduction to role-playing games and what made it stick. Mm-hmm. 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 But now with lead and chrome, was this a concept that you had been fooling around with that just house ruled its way into its own game, or was it something you specifically wanted to build from the get-go? Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, dumb question. When somebody botches a roll, do you call them mediocre? Mhm. Yep. But given that vehicle combat is a major thing, I am curious if anyone had brought up a long-standing game called Car Wars to you. All right. Mm-hmm. So Twisted Metal. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I can certainly get that. And I think when somebody wants to do Mad Max in tabletop form, they want some sort of fantasy of those infamous convoy battles that are in every single Mad Max movie. It does whether you're dealing with whether you're dealing with the original, whether you're dealing with Fury Road, whether you're dealing with getting Beyond Thunderdome. uh what regardless, that fantasy of a bunch of vehicles getting into one big fight is part of that fantasy. And I brought up Twisted Metal earlier, but I think something that would be a little bit more accurate would be bringing up something like, say, Wreckfest, if you played that. Um, Wreckfest is a spiritual successor to some of the demo derby games during the PS1 and 2 era. Um, and while you can do standard races, you do have the demo derby option or crazier stuff. It kind of reminds me of some of the sheer insanity that was in Flat Out. Flat Out 3 notwithstanding, we don't talk about Flat Out 3. Like, for the longest. Yeah. I like Wipeout. Wipeout does not like me back. Especially some of... Yeah, but you know how it is, especially with some of the like the Venom class tracks, especially in like the original. Some of those were just downright evil. With all those blind hills and the like. Yeah, but sequels didn't get any easier, and its successor, Redout, is by no means an easy game either. But I do always recommend people to try out Redout if they were fans of Wipeout, because it pretty much has that same spirit in every way. But given that, one of the things I did notice is that you have a bit of an archetype system, which I guess would be the equivalent of class, but from what I'm seeing, it's more like a leaning rather than a class in the usual sense. So what I'd like to do is go through the listed archetypes that you have, and kind of get a character association, like certain characters in different fictions that you think would fit this particular archetype. So first one is the ringleader. The Bone Man. For whatever reason, when I was going through the description, I kept thinking of the medic in 2 Fort. You know, in Team Fortress 2, and how he's definitely a few eggs short of a picnic, even if he puts you back together. Yeah. Personally, whenever I've played medics or healers or the like, I've always gone with the harm assist approach. They're good. They're good at patching you together, but that also means that they are very, very good at knowing how to take people apart. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can certainly get that. Hmm. Yeah. But next would be the enforcer. Hmm. Is it like the bloody mess perk in Fallout? Hmm. Yeah. Now then, there's the Leadfoot. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah. And you already mentioned the mechanics, so I'll skip over that and go straight to the last one on the list, which is the Trigger Man. And hold on, um, because damn it, a good chunk of the audio got lost because OBS decided to screw me.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. Um, yeah. Oh, it was a case where it wasn't picking, which, and I'm not gonna redo that whole thing. Sorry about that. But one of the primary elements when it comes to that I've talked about when it comes to the way the way games end up working is the roam effect. And I believe in your case, you are doing a D20 as your all roads lead to Rome. Essentially, the core mechanic that everything springs from.
Correct. I didn't want to mix it up too much.
Yeah.
In my next game, I have a very unique dice system similar to something that I believe Green Ronin did. that is, we can dig into that that's a whole nother episode, Byzantium, the Holy City. But yeah, for this, I didn't want to stray too far from the world's most popular role-playing game, as they call it.
We call it the world's most litigious role-playing game.
I have in fact been hit with a cease and desist by them before.
I haven't yet, but I have said that if I ever got hit with a C&D, I would print it on custom toilet paper.
No, theirs was fair. It was early in my career, and my covers infringed on their trade dress.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very much I didn't know what I didn't know starting out.
Yeah.
But I only had maybe 50 adventures out at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent the entire night redoing all the covers.
Yeah.
So their lawyer would be like, "You're cool," and I never heard from them since.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll call it a win.
Now, since you're doing that, I think it also appears that you're doing a very simplified approach to skills. Each core ability only has 2 skills associated with it, and you either have it or you don't.
Correct. Yeah, it's very much like they did in earlier editions of D&D, where you just got a bonus for being trained in something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know some people will say, "Isn't that like the proficiency bonus?" No. In fact, I look at the proficiency. I've never been a fan of how the proficiency bonus was implemented in the world's most litigious role-playing game.
Yeah, characters definitely, I feel, need to, like, I understand wanting your characters to get slightly better at everything just by existing long enough, which makes sense. But for this, this is a world where you struggle to eat and drink and sleep and not get stabbed to death in your sleep, and you're barely getting by. So you really need to focus yourself in a particular way, find your niche, or niche, as they say, and really pursue it. And that's why it's important to build a balanced crew.
Yeah.
Because you need to make sure that all the relative roles are covered, or else you can get blindsided by something that none of you are just prepared to deal with.
Yeah, and in these kind of situations, most people aren't going to be having their party doubled down on one particular archetype. I've talked about this when I've talked about the hacker problem that some cyberpunk games have, and because some people say the solution is we'll just have more than one hacker in the party, and I'm like, that's not how people compose their parties. If you've got
critical redundancy is good, but you want to make sure you have everything covered to start.
Yeah. Like if there's one person who in your case would be the trigger man, everyone else at that table is going to be a little bit less inclined to pick the trigger man. That's not a criticism on this game or that game. That's just how people think.
Sure, yeah, and that's honestly working kind of as intended. I mean, if you want to play on hard mode and just have a bunch of dudes with guns and no one can patch anyone up, and when the vehicle breaks, you just hijack some other poor soul and take theirs. That's a way you can play. It's when I feel like when you design a game in a way that has too many safety nets for characters or for players, you kind of lessen the importance of each character, and you kind of lessen the risk reward of playing the game. D&D, especially if you look at 5th edition, is very it's very hard to total party wipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard in most published adventures to do something so bad that there's no way out of the situation. And that's something I wanted to avoid. I wanted a game where you could be like, well, we're all dead. That was fun. I made a game where everyone dies in the end called I Am Not a Robot, where literally everyone dies by the end. And sometimes it's fun to lose. And I think it's an important thing that we don't focus on enough, is that winning's great, but you can learn so much from losing and gain so much for the next time you roll dice.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. And when it comes to the traits that you set up, you did one thing that I think should be standard whenever you have things like traits, feats, or whatnot, and that is categorizing them.
I take that from I have to say that's the idea of traits, the way they were assigned to ability scores, comes from if you're familiar with the YouTube channel XP to Level 3.
I am not.
So it's run by a guy named Jacob, his wife Spencer, and a bunch of their friends, and they're nerds on the internet. They review homebrew stuff. They play actual plays. They've put out some amazing books on Kickstarter. I think they may have done a backer kit. But Jacob ran a custom Fallout TTRPG. It was a hack of 5e like a few years ago. It was fun. It was really cool. They had great characters. But he kept working on it. Released it, I think, like a year ago. And basically was like, hey, I don't have the rights to this, but I did this whole thing so y'all can have it for free. And it was like a 200, 300-page book of just, this is Fallout RPG, so crunchy, I loved it. But one thing I loved about it was they broke up all of the traits, or the talents, I think is what they called them in that one. No, it was, what did they call them? I can't recall. But it was something Fallout-y.
Perks.
And it was based, I believe it was perks, yes. But they did it based on the ability scores. And you just like in the games, you have to have a certain level to unlock the thing. And I just liked how that was, because it was less like, for balance purposes, it's easier than just, here's a bunch of feats. You pick whatever you want. We need it. One, it's easier to find something you want by organizing it by kind of the stat, which tells you what it does. But it helps with that balance factor too, that you're not going to have someone walk in with that trait I just told you about where you can pink mist somebody if you roll a crit. No one should really have that at level 1, or if they do, they should suck at everything else.
Yeah, I can get that. Now, obviously this is meant to be a game that's going to be very, very brutal, very unforgiving in that sense. I know that there's ways that's handled through things like decay or like hunger, thirst, and sanity, but is that also handled with like the weapons doing a lot of damage compared to how much health somebody's gonna have at a given point?
Absolutely. So to give you an idea, right now I'm gearing up to do a playtest with some friends. They made level 3 characters. They have like between 25 and 30 hit points at level 3. To give you an idea, a sledgehammer does like 3d6 bludgeoning. So 2 or 3 hits with those, you're just dead. If we go to guns, the crappiest gun does 2d6. That's 2d6 piercing damage. A sniper rifle does like 4d8. So you can just clip someone with that and take them down. Sawed-off shotgun, 3d10. And with an expanded crit range. So you tap someone twice with that, they're probably dead. They're not going to be around much longer. Levels also cap at 10. So you're not rolling up to 20 to the point where you have, I can eat a grenade and I'm fine. In fact, 1 grenade will probably kill you. Just flat out. So when you see the dude with the breech loading, single shot grenade launcher leaning out of the car chasing you, you need to prioritize your targets, because that guy's going to blow your car up and you with it.
And there has been a certain reverence when it comes to firearms in post-apocalyptic situations.
Absolutely. It's the guns are fun. Like, that's the thing. A lot of people, when people play tabletop role-playing games, like, they tend to play a lot of fantasy stuff. So yeah, you have a crossbow, you have a longbow, but like a machine gun's a lot of fun. And it's the great equalizer. You can have a crappy little minion and give him a sawed-off shotgun, and suddenly he's a serious threat. He's also an opportunity, because if you kill him, you could take it, and now you've got a gun. So it's, guns and ammunition in this game are something you have to track. Things will break down over time. Things will stop working. They can explode in your hand if they get crappy enough. Bullets are not unlimited. It's not like D&D where you have, I have a quiver of arrows. And it's like, well, have you been tracking them? No. It's like, how many bullets do you have? By the way, how much do they weigh? Can you carry all those bullets? Or are you now super overloaded because you've been picking up everything like this is a Bethesda game?
This isn't a Bethesda game. There aren't enough bugs.
That's true. There's some mutated bugs you can fight, but that's about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about the Razor Claws. But I suppose in that regard are things like jamming or just having to deal with low quality firearms and the effects of firing them a thing as well?
Oh yeah, no. I wanted to kind of streamline it a little bit, so it wasn't going to be. I didn't want you having to check a ton of tables every time something went wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the way it works is there's a table for weapons, and depending on the levels of decay, it suffers a penalty to the attack roll, and the critical failure chance increases. So normally, a pristine weapon, no attack roll penalty, crit fails on a 1. For the first 4 levels of decay, -1 to your attack roll, crit fails on a 1 or a 2. 5 to 7 levels, -2, and then 1 to a 3. 8 to 9, -3, 1 to a 4. 10, -4, 1 to a 5. If anything ever hits 11 levels of decay, it just breaks. Armor is similar, except it suffers a penalty to its armor class, and you suffer a penalty to your damage resistance. So in this game, damage resistance is kind of important, because when you're taking shots that are 2d6, say bullets being pumped into you, being able to ignore 1, 2, or 3 points of that every time is huge. So you might find a flak jacket, this bomb-proof vest in an old ruin, but if it's got 9 levels of decay, you might as well just be putting on your regular clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can certainly get that. Now, shifting to the vehicle part of things, I think an important part of the idea of having a vehicle in these kind of games is that it's as much of a character as the character, and you already have that as just a blank vehicle sheet along with the character sheet. So I'm guessing that vehicle creation is just as important.
Absolutely, vehicle creation is. It's your collective group character, kind of. When you make your vehicle to start, usually we recommend about 2,500 scrap. Scrap is it's my bottle caps in this universe. It's chrome. So it's like we said, if you ever heard the cartel saying there's 2 prices, you can pay in lead or you can pay in silver. Mm-hmm. In this world, it's lead or chrome. Because no one knows how to chrome metal anymore, it becomes a stable currency in the wasteland. Mm-hmm. So you get 2,500 scrap to build a vehicle, and you can adjust that as the DM. You can give them more, you can give them less, depending on where they're starting. I think I gave 3,000 to my level 3 playtesters, save a little more in terms of upgrades because they're going into a death race and they need a little more oomph in their vehicle. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you pick the vehicle type, which there are 6 of those, and each vehicle type has its own benefits. And its own drawbacks, usually in terms of how fast it goes and how durable it is. So there's the buggy, the guzzler. The buggy is kind of like the what you see in Mad Max Fury Road that the buzzards drive. It's like the old classic hot rodders bombing across the sands. Mm-hmm. A guzzler is more like Max's Interceptor. Raw horsepower, it's a fast, big thing. The off-roader is it's a little more tough. It's more kind of like a Jeep, like a high-end Jeep, or one of those survivalist. I'm gonna go roll through the mud in the rivers and go in the middle of nowhere where no one can get to me. That kind of rig. The Caravan is more your souped-up minivan, maybe a small RV. Mm-hmm. It's designed to hold a lot of people and a lot of stuff. Then you have your flatbed, which is what it says, the perfect platform for salvaging or putting a shit ton of weapons on. And then you have your big rig. And your big rig is your war rig. That's your 18-wheeler. It's a fortress on wheels. Its damage, it deals double damage when it rams or sideswipes, so you don't want to get too close to it. It can carry a ton of people, a ton of stuff. It is a mobile fortress. And then when you're building the vehicle, there's over 100 upgrades you can apply to your vehicle in this book.
Yes.
Everything from upgrades to your body, cargo capacity, the engine, exhaust, the frame, the tires. There's also defensive and offensive upgrades. So you can get stuff that helps keep people from boarding or makes you more resilient to certain types of attacks. And then there's a ton of different weapons you can get. everything from saw blades to forklift kind of flipping things that'll send people flying. There's deployables, things you basically just chuck out the trunk or the window that'll do damage to people behind you or to the sides. There's tank guns, machine guns, flak cannon arrays, Tesla cannons. Like there's all kinds. You can make a killer vehicle, and it gets to be a kind of representation of the party. It's something that they can collectively get together and say, "Hey, we made this together. This is super cool," and it becomes like I said, another character they get to care about. When it gets busted up, they're going to want to fix it. When they find cool new parts out in the wasteland, they're going to want to mod it up. So yeah, that is definitely a huge part of the gameplay, is making your own custom vehicle, and you can potentially have multiple as time goes on and the party gets richer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get that. Hold the thought for one moment. I need to hit the BRB for a minute, so we'll be back.
Yeah,
in
sure.
A moment. we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the unexpected interruption. But getting further into that, now obviously vehicular combat is something you were very big on with this. It was one of the founding principles. So that brings us to the rolling threat grid and how you are handling vehicle combat. How is that going to work?
So basically the way it works, give me one second, I'll bring it up here for you. I'll send you a copy of the thing so you can see.
Oh, there is the diagram. There is the diagram that's on the BackerKit page.
Oh, okay. So that one's. I was sending you a slightly bigger one, but that works as long as you can see it. All right. So yeah, basically the way it works is when you're talking about vehicular combat, it tends to focus around something, right? Once again, I go back to Fury Road. When the war rig gets attacked, the war rig's the focus of it. So what it does is you establish essentially what the focus of the combat is, and that will remain at the center of that grid the entire time. So as things move around it and as it moves, you get to kind of adjust the locations of the various other vehicles in the combat. So the assumption we make, and so we don't have to have a landing strip worth of table, is that everyone is doing their best to keep up with one another. Now you can flee combat, and you can chase people down when they try and flee. But for the most part, you're assuming everyone's kind of staying at the same rough speed so they can shoot at each other, ram each other, board each other, etc. From the center, there are 3 ranges, short, medium, and long. And each weapon is good at a certain range. So whether that's, for example, buzzsaw blades are only going to be good if you're right next to the person. Versus if you've got, let's say you've got let's find a good example here, a heavy machine gun. Heavy machine gun is good at short and medium distances. So with your weapons, a lot of them are going to be mounted on certain firing arcs. So every vehicle has a front, a driver's side, a passenger side, and a rear. So if I'm to the right of the combat vehicle, then pretty much everything to my left, so the combat vehicle and everything to the left of it's in my driver's side arc. Everything in the front arc for him is also in my front arc, and everything in the rear arc for him is also in my rear. So if I have a gun only mounted to my driver's side, then I have to make sure I maintain, left side dominance. I want to make sure that I keep everything on that side so I can start firing those bullets and gunning them down. But I have to be mindful that, maybe the thing I'm fighting, maybe that combat-focused vehicle has, an autocannon or something huge on the right side. Well, then maybe I don't want to be next to it. Maybe I want to try and get behind it and ram it from behind. Or maybe I want to get on the other side and let some of my party members board it and jump on board and kill the gunners and make it safer for me to do my job as the driver if I'm the one driving the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get that. And obviously, the big example of the combat focus is going to be the convoy versus the big rig kind of scene.
Mm-hmm. Correct. That's really what it was built around.
Yeah, but do you plan on providing alternative examples if say we're dealing with like a convoy versus convoy kind of thing?
So you can have as many vehicles on that grid as you want at any given time. So the way the grid works is you have essentially a token on that grid. You can kind of see it on the BackerKit where I have the examples showing, and in the book that's from the book to show how you would calculate distance from one vehicle to another. So you could have, the combat focused vehicle in the center. You could have 6 other vehicles all moving around it in unison, and each one would measure its distance to its target a certain way. Essentially, for every line that you cross on that grid, it is one distance. So if we're both in the front arc at medium, we are right next to each other. We are essentially in the same square. There's modifiers that make melee combat much easier when you're right next to them, but ranged attacks become a little more difficult. If I was in, the example here is I'm in the medium on the right, on the passenger side, and you're at long in the front arc, I have to cross over 2 lines to reach you, so you're 2 distances away, you're at medium from me. So you can quickly look at that grid and figure out where you are in relation to any other vehicle, pretty much just by looking at the arc you're in and how many lines you have to cross to get to that other vehicle.
Yeah, I can certainly get behind that. And I'm guessing the more lines you cross, the more of a difficulty modifier there's going to be.
So with the way the distances work is for vehicle combat, there isn't a penalty for firing at one range versus another. If a weapon has short, medium, and long, it can just fire. It basically treats it, if you think of like a longbow with 150 foot range, whether I'm 50 feet, 75, or 100, it's the same modifier. So whether they're right up close to me, medium, or far away, it doesn't really change. And I did that to kind of streamline the overall experience. I play a lot of crunchy war games like BattleTech, where it's like I have to calculate all these modifiers just to get to the part where I roll dice. And that's fun in its own regards, but when you're trying to do some fast-paced play, I feel like you don't really want to get too caught up in that. So there are a lot of abilities that will modify your armor class, for example, as the driver. There's a lot of upgrades that can do that as well. There's damage resistance. There's ways to impose penalties that don't require a lot of math on the attacker's part. Although there are some that do. For example, you can have a smoke screen where everything attacking you from behind takes a penalty, regardless of distance. There are certain things with deployables. So a lot of the deployables, which are your Speed Racer, James Bond style, like I'm going to drop stuff out of the trunk and see what damage it can cause, the further back you are on those, the better the chances you get to dodge it. Just because that makes a little more sense in that regard. If you see someone throw, 5 concrete pylons off the back of a truck, and you're at long range, you have a lot more time to swerve out of the way than the guy who was right behind him when those pylons dropped.
Yeah, I can certainly get that. Now, with that in mind, I did see that you had a few example setups in the back end, just for kind of providing a bit of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And since crafting is going to be a big deal, do you have means in order to allow people to make weird ass customizations of melee and ranged weapons the way you might see in like the bench in Fallout 4, for instance?
There are some options. So there are upgrades for weapons and armor that give you kind of some different. They can take a weapon and make it into something different enough that it becomes unique. You can make it easier to wield. Maybe it's a giant weapon that you normally couldn't carry, but now we can balance it out so that your scrawny dude can hold the chain axe. There's somewhere you can make it. You make your weapon less effective, but improves your armor class. One that had like a forceful effect. You can knock people prone with it. Maybe you just put a motor on the blade and let it start spinning and you just grind it into people. So there's definitely some cool options. Same with the ranged weapons. You can increase their ranges by making them more aerodynamic. You can make them pierce through armor more easily. You can increase the amount. You can give it a bigger mag, a lighter trigger. So there's definitely some cool stuff that's mixed in. And we do have a stretch goal on the actual backer kit itself to put out a supplement that includes more weapons and more weapon customization options. So there's more planned. It's just we'll see if we get there or not.
I can certainly get that, and obviously you don't want to have it where it's too granular for the approach you're going with. It sounds like you're going for a crunch medium approach.
Yes,
it's a degree of crunch, but it's not really trying to shoot for simulation. In part because we already if somebody wants a more simulationist approach to the post-apocalypse, we've had that covered for years. And I was going to argue Twilight 2000, but the current iteration of that isn't that bad. So instead I'll bring up my Whipping Boy of Phoenix Command, because I will never stop beating that dead horse.
Yeah, I definitely wanted something that was like I wanted to give you options, and also like I encourage game masters to grow the system. Look at what I've done, use it as examples, come up with your own stuff, mod the crap out of this game.
Yeah.
That's like I said, that comes back to the joy of TTRPGs is you can do whatever the hell you want, as long as everyone agrees. You roll some dice and you see what the heck happens. So where I see it, the pirates are like, well, it's more of a guideline. Like that's very much what the rules in this are. It's like I'm giving you guidelines on how to play this and some examples, but man, you do what you want to do. Whatever is going to be the fun thing for you is what you should pursue.
Well, Rule 0 is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a saying around here of no one plays Uno as written.
That is very true. I help out at a youth group for kids, and every time we play Uno, we have to it's 5 minutes of, okay, what house rules are we using again?
Mm-hmm. I think the last game I did, we had it where if somebody plays reverse, instead of the turn order reversing, everybody swaps hands with the guy to your left. Which
that would be an interesting one.
It's great for soul harvesting. Or I think one time I had played with these comically oversized Uno cards. When I say comically oversized, I'd say they're about the size of my shin bone.
Oh my!
So imagine having a giant hand of those cards.
Yeah, that's got to be somewhat hard to manage.
Yeah, though in this case it wasn't my idea to do it, so especially when somebody's got 10 or 15 cards in their hand, since the approach we go with is always to try to screw someone over by giving them the biggest hand possible.
Oh, those are fun. The draw sevens, the draw millions, the blank cards where you make up your own. It's always a good time.
Yeah, we're all familiar with the meme of stop doing blank thing or draw 25.
Yep.
But I can definitely see that. And given that, do you have plans on putting in some guidance or an article or the like to kind of help move that along when it comes to the inevitable homebrews that are going to happen?
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff kind of in the works. Not necessarily like an SRD per se, but
yeah, not necessarily, but like a guidance on how the framework of archetypes or origins works, for instance.
Oh, sure, and that's kind of sort of in the book already, where it says, for each archetype and for each origin, it says, you can make your own. Mm-hmm. All you get is XYZ. For origins, you get an ability score gets +1, one gets -1, and you get a unique trait. So it even says, you can work with your GM to make, the right one for you. Archetypes get 3 skills they get a +2 bonus to, because they get trained. They get unique traits and starting gear. That's all it is. So the unique traits, everyone gets 5 that they can choose from that require levels 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And then the starting gear varies from class to class or archetype to archetype. Usually it's between 600 and 700 scrap is what they get to start out with to buy all their stuff.
Yeah. In that regard, I'd probably end up telling people that class in this thing is akin to class in a Souls-like.
Yeah, it's very, very, very light. It's like I said, it is a suggestion. It's just here's a starting point. Build from it how you will.
Yep. Oh. I will admit I will certainly look forward to seeing what happens when certain gun experts get a hold of a game like this and decide to expand on the available firearms.
Yeah, there's a good number to start, but people are welcome to throw in. Like I obviously for licensing purposes, like I don't say like it's a Lewis gun or it's a Magnum revolver. Like it's very not what's the word I'm looking for? Scrubbed. It's very scrubbed of any permanent identity. But I could see someone being like, "Oh yeah, this is the rules for a Tommy gun. This is the rules for a pump action Benelli."
Yeah.
And I would 100% be down to see that kind of homebrew come out of this.
If somebody
Really,
makes a
any
Tommy gun,
engagement.
if somebody makes a Tommy gun in this and does not have rules for jamming, then I will be very disappointed.
I can definitely see that being a rule that ends up in here at some point. Overall, not just breaking, but spraying and praying, as it were.
I like the term that I've heard some soldiers use of accuracy by volume.
Yeah, it's you put enough bullets down range, you're gonna hit something eventually.
And in the same vein, remember that the only thing more accurate than incoming enemy fire is incoming friendly fire.
True.
But if I've got this right, the backer kit's going to launch in about 5 days from the time we're recording this, and I'm guessing that's going to be going for about 30 days.
Yep, we launch 6 days on the 4th, so we'll be launching that Tuesday morning, and yeah, it's going to run for 30 days, and we are fulfilling via DriveThruRPG. So I've been through the ringer a few times fulfilling Kickstarters, and something I learned is I love digital ones because the fulfillment is instantaneous and easy. The book is about 99.9% done. It needs I spot a couple typos every time I open it up, an extra A here, a wrong "your" there. So I still have to do one final pass through just to grab all that, but otherwise the PDF is ready to go. We do have to add the bookmarks like you and I discussed. But for a print file, it's basically configured for that. I have to add one blank page and it meets the page requirements. But the key thing on DriveThru, and the thing I like, is you're basically paying me my profit up front, and then you can just buy as many books as you want. So you basically buy them for cost plus shipping.
Nice.
So instead of having to pay a fulfillment partner and a printer and work out all these, everyone gets their cut, and it becomes a whole nightmare, and then things get caught up because I'm printing overseas, and then some bridge collapses, or there's a war or a hurricane, all the things that can go wrong between printing a book and getting it in the hands of the backer. DriveThruRPG has facilities in Europe and America, so basically you're just going to be able to go on their website and order a book, just like buying it off Amazon. So it's simple for them, it's quick and easy for me, everybody wins. And yeah, there's no questions of like, what are you making on each book? Well, you could see, like, you can literally see, this is what I'm going to make, because you're going to pay this, and then you're going to pay this, and then you're done. And I got the first chunk. So it's very open and transparent, which I think is important with crowdfunding, especially with there are a lot of companies that have moved to using crowdfunding, not because they need to, but because it's a marketing ploy, or it's a hype machine. And a lot of the indie developers kind of get lost in that, because we're out here saying, hey, we got bills to pay, we want to keep making stuff, but work's kind of hard to come by. And some people will miss those indie titles. They'll not back something because they're like, oh, this is a money grab, or oh, I don't know if this will be successful, or what's the extra costs going to be afterwards. So this particular print-on-demand fulfillment model lets us bypass all that by saying, hey, this is what we're going to make, this is what you're going to pay, everybody wins, the big guys don't get a cut, let's rock and roll and make some cool stuff together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can certainly get to that. Now, with that said, I'll be looking forward to seeing how it turns out, and I do want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come all the way to my temple and enjoy the madness that happens around here.
Absolutely.
And
it was a pleasure to be here.
Anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open.
Oh, I've got games we can talk about, my friend. Mm-hmm. I got all kinds of projects in the works. I'll have to cue you in on.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you see fit, as I said before, anytime you see fit to return, the door is always open. As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged.
I will keep that in mind as I go downstairs to make myself a little something to eat and drink.
And of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there will be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.